Okay, so as I said, today's session is an introductory training to the APAC Data Submission and Quality Portal. I apologize, here we go, getting a few more folks in. We today are going to give you a brief introduction to our team. We're going to talk about an overview of the system, and we are going to review the transition timeline to this new system. Additionally, we'll go over the payer testing period that we're going to be holding and what that is going to mean for you all. And finally, just wrap up with some information about how you can reach us, how we'll be providing support, and again, just give you an opportunity to ask questions. So here we've got our team at HSRI, Human Services Research Institute. Our project director with our work with OHA and the APAC is Leanne Candora. My name is Kate Mullins. I'm the project manager and the lead for our data submission and user support team. The other folks, Ray Rodriguez, Haley Dubrell, and Quinn Lawrence, will be some of the folks that you'll all be working with as you transition to this new system. They make up our help desk team, and again, I'll be providing information about what kind of support will be available to provide. So now I'm just going to get into an overview of what this new system is going to look like for you. There are 7 major steps in the process. First is a pre-registration questionnaire. Second is portal user registration. Step 3 will be data preparation. Step 4 is submission of prepared files via SFTP. Step 5 is the load and data intake validations. Step 6 is the resolution of those issues. And step 7 is really where we get files past that initial data quality and they move into the APAC data warehouse for further processing and quality assurance steps. So I'm going to talk through these steps in a little bit more detail. Step 1 is the pre-registration questionnaire. Many of you have already completed this step, and we appreciate you taking the time to complete that questionnaire. It was initially sent on September 23rd, and we're using this to identify an initial administrator user for the data submission portal and also identify an individual to receive the SFTP account credentials. Again, many of you have already done this. We appreciate it. If you haven't yet and are unable to locate an email with that information, we can certainly follow up with you after this call. Step 2 is portal user registration. There are several roles that users will be assigned to, and I'm going to demonstrate what this actually looks like in the portal later in today's presentation. There's an administrator role, and this person would have access to all aspects of our portal. They can review and manage other users and will receive communications about submissions for their company. The data submitter role can review the detailed validation results, address those issues, receive communications about submissions. A user can also hold both roles simultaneously, or they could have a none role, which gives them limited read-only access within the portal and also just adds them to a general distribution list for more widely distributed information. So every submitter must have an administrator user who can grant permissions to other system roles. Step 3 is data preparation, and this includes file naming, compression, and encryption. Data will be submitted using the same file format as currently required. Files will be named according to the standard naming convention. Again, we're trying to minimize some of this transition. We're using the same file naming conventions that are used by Mailman currently. And to ensure the security of information and to reduce transmission times, files must be compressed and encrypted before they are submitted. So compression and encryption can be accomplished by several industry standard tools, WinZip or 7-zip, which you may already have in your workplace. Each file should be added to a separate zip archive, and they must be encrypted using 256-bit AES encryption. We know that some submitters may have other requirements within their system, and we're happy to work with you to determine what is needed based on your requirements. Step 4 is the actual transmission of those prepared files. Data files will be transmitted to us via SFTP. This server is hosted by HSRI's partner, NORC at the University of Chicago. Accounts are currently being generated by NORC for those that have responded to the pre-registration questionnaire. And as we continue to receive responses to those, we'll continue to set up these accounts and make that available as soon as possible. So again, just how this is going to work as far as transferring the files via the SFTP, provided the connection information for the server. There will be additional documentation distributed with this information as well. Submissions can be automated or manual processes. We know some of you probably have automated processes set up to transfer data. We can handle that, or if it's somebody actually sitting and making the move themselves, that's fine as well. When files are transferred to us, an automated confirmation email will be sent to the data submitters once it's successfully transferred via SFTP. Once those files are successfully transferred to us, they'll be evaluated against a set of data intake validations. And then, as I mentioned earlier, they'll proceed for further quality assessment checks. In the process to produce those validation issues, the information will be communicated to you via the portal, and you can resolve them via the portal as well. Validation overrides will replace what was previously referred to as exceptions, and they'll be requested and managed directly within the portal. This is just a graphic of how that process is going to work. Again, data are submitted. There's a number of different levels of rules, and I'm going to go through that in detail. They need to first and foremost pass our structural level issues, making that ensure the files are in the correct format, and then they go through additional rules. So here, as I said, there's 5 different types of the automated validation rules. And this describes each of those rule types. Structural and failure must be resolved and corrected. So it usually requires a resubmission of the file. Exemption, ad hoc, and profile can be overridden. The majority of the rules that will be evaluating your data will be exemption level and actually require approval from OHA before they are accepted. A full list of those rules will always be available in the portal, and I'll be demonstrating where you can find that information. Here are a couple examples of some of the data intake validations. The first one that's displayed here is actually a structural rule. We're checking to see if we've received the file before. So if a file with the exact same name and period has been submitted previously, we're going to flag this, ask you to cancel and resubmit the file. Another check that we do is to look at the volume of records over time. We calculate a rolling average of records submitted over time, and if it varies by a certain percentage point, and in this case it's 20%, we're going to flag it, just ask you to verify that information, and if it is expected, provide an explanation. Again, it'll be exemption and then require an explanation and approval. The next few rules sort of demonstrate that most of the rules are going to be checking to determine if required fields are populated, and then if they are populated, that they're populated with valid codes. So for this example, we're checking to see if the principal diagnosis code is populated, and we're expecting it to be populated 98.8% of the time. If that's not the case, we need you to override it with an explanation. So now that we've assessed the population of that field, we're going to check the validity of what's there. So when the fields are not blank, we're ensuring that the entry has a valid code. And same with the provider NPI. So those are some of the examples of structural and exemption issues that we'll be evaluating data. So step 6 will be resolution of those data intake validation issues. Validation email notifications will occur. So once a file's been submitted, as I mentioned, you'll get an email letting you know that it's been successfully transferred. And then once the file has actually been processed and validated, you'll get another email indicating whether the validation passed with no issues or if there are failures that need to be reviewed and resolved. We guarantee that that email is going to be sent out to you within 24 hours, but it's typically in less than an hour. So once that process occurs, the user can then log into the portal and view the details of their validation results. The last step is to work through those issues and have all your files reach a status of validation pass by the submission deadline. The passing files will then move into the data warehouse for processing and further quality assurance assessments. If other things come up in that process, we'll be communicating with you. So here, I just want to quickly touch on some technology requirements. First and foremost, I think to ensure that you're receiving communications from us in a timely manner, we ask that you whitelist or approve a couple of email addresses. The first is a portal email address. This is where all the automated system notifications will be coming from. And then second is our help desk email address. And as I mentioned earlier, the standard tools that can be used for encryption are listed here. And we can certainly work with you if there are other business needs within your organization. So I'm now going to talk through some of the timeline for this transition. I know OHA and the APAC staff have communicated a high-level timeline on their website, and we've talked about it in a couple of the venues, but today I'm going to walk through a little more detail about what you can expect over the coming months and when you're going to have some opportunities to actually get in here and test. So as I said, the first step is having each entity complete the questionnaire that we've distributed. We're hoping to get all the responses by the end of this month so that we can continue to set up submitter accounts on our end for the portal and the SFTP transfer. And again, that's going to be done by a partner, NORC. Many of you have been communicating with our help desk already. It officially opens November 4th, but in the meantime, you are welcome to email us. On November 4th, we'll be distributing instructions to all data submitters about how they're going to test. And that test period is going to officially open on November 9th and continue through December 10th. This will be your opportunity to really test out transferring files, getting an understanding of how your data are going to perform against the data intake validations. And again, I'm going to talk about this in more detail in a few minutes, show you what this means. But this is the important date, I think, to mark on your calendars to plan some time to test during this period. The production system and the official transition to the new system is going to happen in early January. We will be doing another training similar to today, but it's going to review some additional features and really focus on what needs to happen in the month of January in the production system. That will be scheduled for January 5th. The production portal will be officially launched and available on January 6th, and the deadline for files to be passing in the new system is January 31st. So now I'm going to talk specifically about that payer testing period and what the expectations are for that. There are a couple of key goals that we're hoping to accomplish with all of you to make sure that everyone is ready for that transition over to the production system in January. We, based on the questionnaire responses, we will be pre-registering the administrator user in the data submission and quality portal. So during that period, the testing period, we want that person to log in and actually add at least one other user in the test system. Those user accounts will be transferred over to the production system when we go there. We want you to transmit at least one properly named, compressed, and encrypted file via the SFTP connection. We recommend using a recently submitted production file. And then we also want you to review the data intake validation results. We expect that folks can work through and resolve any structural or failure validation issues. And that may require resubmissions in order to resolve that. We expect you to review the exemption profile and ad hoc validation issues and the resolution options, but we are not actually expecting you to go through and submit overrides for all of those failures. So those are the goals, and this is kind of what the steps will be. Again, logging in, doing some user registration to get other folks added in the system. You'll be retrieving your encryption key through the portal. Then you'll be compressing and encrypting the files, transferring those files via SFTP, and then reviewing those validation issues. If needed, you'll resubmit those files and repeat the steps. So now I'm going to switch over to actually giving you a preview of the portal and walk through some of those features and how you're going to perform those testing steps. Okay, so now I'm showing what is the test portal. We're going to be maintaining two portals, a test and a production portal. We'll be using the test portal for this initial testing period, and in the future, when it comes time to make adjustments to the file layout or the validation rules, we'll have two systems so that folks can be testing what's new and coming down the line while also being able to submit to production. So as you can see, you come to this login screen. There's a place for you to be able to recover your existing account if you forget any of your information. And we also have our help desk email address listed here. So I'm going to log in with a test account and start showing you around. So once you log in, you'll see we have a place where we can provide some announcements or reminders about upcoming deadlines or other information we want to communicate. As the first administrator who receives a portal account, you're going to be logging in with a temporary password. So once you come here, we want you to actually go in and update your password. That can be done up here. You'll see your user account, and you can manage your account here. You can change your password, your username, or edit your contact details. Going back to the home screen, I'm going to show you what is available here in the menu items on the left. The first thing, again, as part of the testing steps will be for you to go to the users menu item. This is where you'll be able to manage additional users and register new folks, or if somebody down the line needs to be removed, you'll have the ability to do that. So click register, and again, here's where you're going to be able to select the role that you want this person to hold. Administrator can manage other users, gets all communications. Data submitters can view information and receive communications. They have both or none. Next, I'm going to head over to the summary. This is where the encryption keys are going to be communicated to submitters. So that key is listed here. And this is also where we will track which file types are expected to be submitted for each entity and for which periods. OHA will manage this information and be able to track waivers here within the system. So next, I'm going to click on submissions. This is where all of your submitted files are going to show up. And as you can imagine, over several years, this list is going to get rather long. So we have a number of ways you can filter this information. But the most recent file will always show at the top. So as the files arrive, we assign a unique ID to each file as it comes into our system. This is helpful just for clarity and communication. So that's what you'll see first displayed here. The rest of the columns are populated with information that we parse out from the files, the file names as they're received. And we also include information about the date the file actually arrived. The issues column provides information about how many validation issues each file may have. And we also have an overall status of that file. So I'm going to go to file ID 3435. It's an eligibility file. It has 3 validation issues and a status of failed. So I'm going to click on results to get some more information. And here we default to showing you the currently failing rules. You can also change this filter to see all of the rules that have passed, may have been overridden already, or may have a status of pending, and pending means it's under review. So I'm going to next go to this rule. Again, all of the validation rules are assigned a unique ID that helps us in our communication. This rule is looking to determine if the product code is valid. The issue type is exemption. And in this test file, the expected passing threshold is 99.5% of the time. In this case, it's only 98.2% of the records that are passing. The status is failed. Again, I can click on details to get some more information. Here's displaying some of the information I just walked through, but it also includes the numerator and denominator for the number of records included in this calculation. If I click on summary, I am going to get a view of the top most frequently failing values. So this is helpful if maybe you don't have access to the raw file, or just in general, just trying to zero in on where the issues are. So in this case, we have the value of X is present 3,001 times. So it's the most frequently failing value for this particular rule. If I go back to this screen, there's another option to look at this information. You can click on details, and I see the first 25 failing values. So I can actually see which record IDs are associated with some of these failures. It may be helpful in tracing back the issue. We do not display this information for sensitive information, PII or PHI. This information will not be available through the portal, but our help desk is available to help support you in zeroing in on where the issues might be. Oops. And I'm gonna go back now to show you how to override an issue. So I've looked at all the results, I've determined I'm not able to fix these data in my system, and I need to request an override. Again, during the testing period, and we are not asking you to work through all these issues and actually resolve these issues, and we will disable some of this functionality just to make sure that's clear, but I will show you what this is going to look like. So when you hit the request an override button, you're brought to a screen, which is familiar. The information being asked of here is familiar to most of you. Again, it replicates the existing exception process for asking you to provide some information, some explanations around the request. You'll hit submit, and then OHA will be alerted to the request and have the opportunity to review it and make a decision. Once the decision is made, an automated email will go back out to the requester, informing them of the decision and also providing some context in the email. And the user can also come back into the portal and take a look at that response. So next, I'm just going to highlight some of the other features available in the portal that will be, I think, especially useful during testing. Again, later in January, we'll do a more extensive training that will highlight some of the other features that are available to you. But for now, I'm going to go to this guide section. If I click on validation rules, this is what I referred to earlier, where you can find a full list of all of the data intake validation rules that will be performing against your data. By file type or issue type, it'll all be listed here for reference. If there are any questions about what these mean, again, our help desk is available to navigate through that with you. We also have a file layouts resource that's basically converting some of the information that is available through the appendices of the administrative rule, and we're just making it available in the portal in a table format. And then down to the help section, if you click contact us, there's a web form available to contact our help desk and submit a ticket. So that's one method that you can communicate with us. We also list our contact information here at the bottom, email, phone number, and our hours of availability. There will also be links to, in the help section, a user manual that will walk through all of the steps that you'll need to perform within the portal. There's a link to APAC info on their websites, and there will be an FAQ available to help troubleshoot issues. So I'm going to log out now and switch back to my PowerPoints. So again, I'll say this a lot, and I'm sure many of you will be reaching out to us, but as you go through the testing, if you have questions or encounter roadblocks, please contact our help desk. We are here to help you, and we are looking for your feedback on any major issues or blockers that you find either in our portal, the submission process, any barriers that you're encountering on your own systems. We want to be aware of those so that we can help you and support that process. So again, just listing our help desk information here and the APAC admin information. We are happy to help. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for some questions. I know I have a number of chats, so I'm going to take a moment to look at that. And try and get through some of these, and then I will open the line if folks want to unmute and ask some question. Let's see. Okay, so one of the questions is about resubmissions and how if files need to be canceled before you resubmit. They do not. We're going to be using some of the information, the date, the timestamp information provided in the file name to help us version what's being submitted. But you are welcome to cancel files if you want them out of the system. You'll have that ability as well. Okay, so there's a question about file layouts, whether they're the same as they're being submitted today, with a few minor changes previously outlined. And I'll try and address this, and if folks from the OHA, APAC staff, if you want to jump in, feel free. But overall, the layout of the data is expected to be the same. There are some changes being proposed that I think are mostly just clarifications, or actually making the rule reflect how the data are being submitted currently. And I'll just pause to see if anybody wants to jump in on that.
Thanks, Kate. This is Amy Clary from OHA, and you answered that exactly the way I would have.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I see a suggestion of a presentation that reviews changes for the existing submitters. And I'm clear if that's specific to the data file layouts or if it's the process. So maybe we can follow up on that after offline. Okay, somebody asked a question about the none choice for the user roles within the portal. That role doesn't get used a lot. It's really if there's somebody that just wants to be able to monitor activity within the portal for their company, they can have that ability. They can come in and look at information, but they won't necessarily be acting on anything. Like for example, they won't be resolving validation issues. This is also a role if we just want to be on a distribution list for general updates. That would be a way to get on that list. There's a question about existing granted exemptions or exceptions and whether they'll be carried over. And I think that the expectation is that they will be carried over for the current period, but they will, for 2021, you'll need to reapply. Okay. So there's a question just about contacts. Will the current point of contact remain the same or will they change? So for OHA and the APAC staff at OHA, the point of contacts, I believe, are remaining the same. But as far as actually the folks you're communicating with for technical needs in the submission, that will be changing from, if you've been working, I know you're working with folks at Milliman currently, but at the end of 2020, that will end and will fully transition to HSRI and our partner NORC.
Hi, this is Karen. I think I'm actually unmuted myself now.
Okay, great.
So Karen Hampton, OHA. One, I want to say that on your mention of exemptions, that's absolutely correct. Currently and throughout APAC, as far as I know, exemptions are only valid for 1 year at a time. So regardless of whether or not we move to HSRI from Milliman, people would need to reapply for an annual exemption to the validation rules. And that's basically because the validation rules and the thresholds can change from year to year as we do new rulemaking. So we want to make sure that we don't grandfather someone in to something, one, that would no longer be required, or two, the data has actually improved and they could be sending better data. So the exemptions will need to be done annually anyway. And also, as Kate said, there's no change in contact for the APAC program. The best way to contact us will continue to be APAC.admin at dhsoha.state.or.us, which is not fun to say, but we're happy to talk to people. We also will be touching on this slightly at our TAG meeting next week, and we will be sending out the agenda for that, as well as posting it later today or very early tomorrow morning. So that'll be another opportunity for people to ask us questions.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to keep going through some of the questions I got via chat. Okay, again, another user role question. Which functions in the portal will not be available to the data submitter role? And primarily it's just the data submitters are not able to manage other users. There's a question about making this presentation available. It's not currently available to yet. We will distribute a link to the recording and we'll provide a copy of the slides from today's presentation. Hopefully in the next day or two, we'll blast an email out to all of today's participants. And, okay, question, what has to be done by the end of this month besides regular submissions to Milliman? We're just asking if you have not already completed our questionnaire that was distributed at the end of September. We're encouraging you all to respond by the end of October so that we can continue getting folks set up for testing, which will begin in November. Karen, I may have a question that you can answer here. Somebody's asking if you could confirm the time period for the second submission due at the end of this month. I assume that's a question for what's due to Milliman this month.
So this month it is the quarterly claims file that will be from October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. And the exception to that would be dental for anyone that didn't pass previously, which is the majority, but I think there's been a couple of things. I think that there's been more time for the data submitters to work on the files, and also OHA has been able to go in and approve some exceptions so that files that can't quite meet the thresholds will still be able to pass next time. And those files need to be from January 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020.
Great, thank you, Karen. So there's a question just about the listing of all the validation rules that we'll be applying. As I said, we're going to have that available in the portal. I will try to pull together a list that we may be able to distribute a little sooner if people are interested. Okay, so question, this is a good question. Can we submit one zip file including all the APAC files? So the answer is no. Each file needs to be in its own zip archive in order to come through our system. And we'll make sure that's clear in all of our instructions. And Karen, I have another question I'm hoping you could field. Is there a limit on the length of time you can request an exemption?
1 year. It's generally good for the calendar year. So if you request it in January 2021, it'll be valid throughout 2021. If you request it in June of 2021, it will still be valid through 2021.
Great,
so it's not a rolling 12 months, it's the reporting year.
Great. So I've come to the end of my chats. If anyone would like to unmute themselves and ask a question, please feel free. And if you do want to contact us offline and go through anything, please feel free to do so. So we'll pause and